Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
Hey Sandra, how's it going? We finally made it.
Yes, sorry everyone for all the technical difficulties. I had a tough time today getting Zoom to connect to LinkedIn, and it's so late where you're at. So, yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm in the UK at the moment. I'm in the study room, so very green, very peaceful. And I've got my drink here, so true to British fashion. Where are you at?
In the US, in Texas, and I'm so honored because not only are you my first woman in STEM on my LinkedIn Live and podcast, but you're also my first international guest.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and it's funny enough, we met through LinkedIn. It's the power of connections and meeting on, this big virtual platform. And it's so funny. Until you did videos, until it became a big trend to do videos on LinkedIn, I always assumed you're American. And then I was watching your videos. I'm like, oh, she has an accent.
Oh, yeah. I think people are like, oh, you have a British accent. So.
Yeah, but we'll just start off with I'll let you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Bonnie Sim. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. Thank you for everyone who's joined. My background is in theoretical physics. So I did my PhD on graphene, on twistronic graphene. And then afterwards, I worked in communications in a startup and now I work as a corporate consultant. So quite varied, really. And yeah, I just love LinkedIn because there's such amazing people like yourself, Sandra. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, I was surprised by that because when I was building the slide for this and you took it and within like 5 minutes or so, you made it so much better. And I didn't realize you had such a wide breadth of experiences that you're not just the typical, techie woman and PhD person.
Oh, yeah, breaking the stereotypes. I'd say that maybe my strengths are less on the technical side. So I do really love physics and science. I learned how to, I guess, do a bit of design and Canva. So useful. So I owe it all to Canva, really.
No, no, it's you. I have a Canva account too. I have Canva Pro. It's very limited what I can do. And then it was funny, I was talking with you and I remember asking, like, how are you so good at doing videos and comfortable doing videos? And you were telling me about your background and, how you grew up performing and tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've always thought this growing up that I owe my science success and academic success to dancing. So I did my first ballet lesson when I was 2. I stopped for a while and then I trained in classical dance from the ages of 4 to 18. So ballet, tap, modern jazz, street dance. And I think
Wow.
those kind of hobbies really grew me as a performer. So I always say that I'm introverted, and I think people are quite surprised by that. So I'd say transferring what I love in my hobby to a career. For me, yeah, that's why I love kind of going
Wow.
on videos.
That's so different because so many women in the technical fields or science fields are just very right-brained and don't use their left brain in any way.
I think that's an interesting point. I'd say that physics is quite creative because there's many ways to get to the same conclusion. So how you get there, I think, is a creative process, and two physicists will do the same thing. So yeah,
Oh,
it's a creative subject.
oh, interesting. I never thought of it that way because it just seems like, well, in engineering, it's like, there's only one right answer, and that's the answer. Yeah.
But you get to it in different ways, right? Or people
You
might describe
can.
it ways.
You certainly can. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I want to talk to you about, you seem to have this message about unshakable confidence and what has really inspired you to want to talk about that? Why are you passionate about talking about that?
Yeah, I think maybe the word unshakable confidence is a little bit misleading. I think everyone has challenges and moments where their confidence is hit. But when I think of the word unshakable confidence, what I mean is when you do take that hit, you're not going straight down to zero and building it from scratch. It's
Mm.
a stable approach, really. I was inspired by it because I found that I wanted to build my own confidence. And by helping others in similar positions to myself, I think that's really helped me.
Oh, interesting. And how do you think having confidence has paid off throughout your life, career, all these endeavors?
I'd say that I was less confident in my own abilities. I used to play myself down quite a lot, or I'm not very good at that, or in that, I think culturally as well, I grew up in a sort of be humble, that is a good thing. But I think being overly humble means that sometimes you undermine yourself. So I think now that I think more about confidence, I think, you know what, I have demonstrated abilities or I've demonstrated that I've overcome certain challenges. So I think it's okay for me to think that I'm good at those things. So I think yeah, for me, it brings more peace of mind.
Yeah, and do you think it's different and affects women more differently than maybe males?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I did high school in a girls' school. So I never really thought to
Oh,
myself that there was a difference. So in the school I went to, say from what I remember, around 68% out of 120 of us took at least two sciences, and maths. So for
oh.
me, I was always surrounded by women who were very interested in STEM. I think when I went to university, that's there were around seven women and 100
Yeah, it
men on the
flipped
course.
on you.
And I think that was the first time I realized myself thinking, oh, I'm not as good as those guys. They're really confident in class. They're like answering all these
Hmm.
questions. And I think when we look at our demonstrated abilities, we were probably doing the same or getting the same similar results. And I do remember feeling there were moments where I thought to myself, I'm like, oh wow, I don't know why I feel like I'm less confident in this environment. Whereas when I was at school, I was very confident. Um, yeah, it's hard to say. I like to personally, I try not to think too much about kind of the gender differences. So I think for me, in education, there's also like socioeconomic differences. I think a
Mhm.
socioeconomic differences impact kind of educational success and opportunities as much as, if not more than, gender differences. So that's kind of like, yeah, I don't tend to talk a lot about gender.
Oh, that's
Because your
interesting. But I
opinion on
definitely think, yeah, if you have a
that.
different environment, you're shaped by that. Because if that's all you saw in high school, then that's
Yeah,
inevitable.
see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. So I know lots of men who are brilliant at STEM, but also women as well. Um, I would say maybe what I have found is that maybe some of my female colleagues are less confident, or at least they might downplay their achievements more. But then similarly, there are also men who are very humble in the way that they talk about their achievements. So, yeah, I try not to put a sweeping brush on these things.
Oh, interesting. And then I noticed, you used to talk a lot about speaking. Well, you still do, about speaking with confidence. So how did you get into becoming a better speaker?
Yeah, that's a good question. I used to get super nervous before speeches. So during my PhD, we had to do some like pitching competitions. So I did a STEM PhD, but we had a 3-month business course as well. So we would have to practice kind of doing pitches, commercializing our research. And I remember getting super, super nervous. I would rehearse simple things like I'll remember to say good morning, and I would still mess up. I'd still end up saying good afternoon because I was so freaked out. And I kind of realized that public speaking the more you do it, the better it is. And also just finding any opportunity to maybe facilitate meetings or join workshops or even volunteering. So I used to go and speak at schools as well, about STEM and
Oh,
potential careers. And I think that really helped me because with kids, they just think everything's so funny and they're not expecting perfect. They're just sort of
yeah.
like, oh, a really cool person. And
Yes.
I remember when I went to this school, the kids had like feedback forms, and one of the kids was like, "Oh, I really like that she has an accent. It's so funny." And it just made me realize that actually, yeah, what they're looking at is my personality more than what I'm saying or if I mess up or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. You do bring up a good point. I've done talks in classrooms with kids, and you don't have to, I wouldn't say you're not trying, but it's a good place to practice your public speaking, right? Because they're kids and they're just so lovable and sweet, and you don't have to be the most brilliant public speaker. They just like you're giving them attention for a while, right? You're giving them your
And
attention, you're
you're
giving the
new.
person the
You're not their
attention.
teacher. It's someone new to
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really fun that you got to do that. Yeah. So what other kind of things have you done in your STEM career? Because you've done so many different things, and now you're kind of going more this corporate route. So talk about that, your journey and how you transitioned and all that.
Yeah, so when I was doing my PhD, I guess similar to for many students really, I thought to myself, okay, after my PhD, I'm going to do a postdoctoral research position, then I'm going to get tenure, become a professor, da 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 da. And then during my PhD, we had to do this mandatory business course. At first, I was like, oh, I only want to do physics. Why do I have to do this extra stuff? Like, why do I need to go and speak to
Mhm.
industry people? It's not to do with science. And yeah, I mean, I had to admit I was wrong because I loved it so much and I sort of found a new passion. I learned about consulting. I
Mm.
spoke to people with a PhD in STEM, but who, went off into corporates, went off into startups. And I thought, I can really see myself doing that. And I think, so I was in theoretical physics and I realized that I wanted to do more outside of academia because I was quite communicative.
Mhm.
So I'd say that a lot of my colleagues, they're fant amazing. They were so amazing. They would talk about these amazing physics phenomena during lunchtime. And I always found myself wanting to do other things and having lots of other interests. So after my PhD, I joined a for-profit think tank on frontier technologies, connecting startups, corporates, academic, governments, all around innovative frontier technologies. And from there, I developed a passion for communication. So kind of not only communicating science to a wide audience, but also, forming partnerships between different groups of people. I always knew that I wanted a corporate experience as well because I think you can learn something quite different working at a large organization. So when my friend referred me into where I am now, I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot.
Mm.
And I've been here for nearly 2 years now, and kind of I think I'm ready to move on to something different.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think there's just all these phases of life, but I think the transferable skill I've always focused on is communication. So I don't think the career pivot has been too wild in that sense.
Oh, but that is really cool because you took on a different experience and then you realized how much you liked it because you could have been professor, Dr. Bonnie, right?
I don't know. I mean, I loved physics, but then when I spoke to my friends, they were talking about all these there's this particle called excitons, and they were like, "Oh, Bonnie, did you see this paper?" And I thought it was interesting, but I didn't think it was that interesting. And I think that moment was when I thought, you know what? During my lunch breaks, I don't want to talk about the coolest new discovery right now. And then that's when I thought, okay, maybe I should be leaning on my strengths even more.
Oh, I really like that because you kind of were like, you're around your colleagues and you're like, they're all super lit up about this, right? They're so excited. They want to talk about it even during lunch. And like, yes, but it's like, I don't live and breathe and want to talk about this, even when I go home and during lunch and all that. And it's funny because I think, it just shows you had a wide breadth of experiences, right? But you still see how it translates over. What do you think is more important in communicating in these like technical type of situations, like versus just, some people, it's more this like comedic or like whatever, motivational speaking, but how do you speak to people in technical settings?
I think, at least in my experience for technical settings, it's about getting to the point more quickly.
Yeah.
Um, there is maybe it's my own style as well. And maybe there are less pleasantries. It's sort of, okay, get to the root of the problem as quick as possible and then also work out a solution. I've always found that when I speak to technical people, and I speak to technical people now, that we're more interested in talking about the thing that's going wrong rather than the people engagements. So I found maybe for business stakeholders, sometimes when we're talking about fixing a problem, it's about, oh, this person has this influence, this person has that influence, or maybe it's a blocker because that person's unsure. But when it comes to
Mhm.
problems or speaking to technical people, it's very much like, okay, this is the thing. It's more about the thing rather than the people. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I found, like kind of like being direct. Don't beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Don't coat problems. Just say what you're thinking. And I find that that builds trust quite well in technical settings.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it's different than other type of speaking, and some people don't get it. It's a little, yeah, you're right. It's more direct, and you're definitely doing the problem solving, and it's not telling like these long stories or sometimes even cutting out some of the humor, right? It doesn't go over well all the
I
time.
think maybe from an observer, it can sometimes come across as rude as well, and
Yeah.
maybe blunt and not polite. But actually, I think it's everyone just values efficiency in that way.
That's true, being concise and direct and all that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd love to talk about because what motivated me to reach out to you was I started noticing you because you're making those daily LinkedIn videos. So tell me how you decided on that and your journey, and you had this whole like task and goal with that, and what motivated you to get out there and start putting videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so in middle of August, I saw a post by LinkedIn Turner. She's one of my favorite LinkedIn creators. She was like, videos are popping off, paraphrasing, everyone should do it. And I've always wanted to do videos. But around this time last year, I did a video, I did two videos on TikTok. And yeah, someone commented and was like, oh, BS. And it really discouraged me. And I stopped making videos for an entire year.
No.
I deleted the videos as well because
It's probably like a 19-year-old living in their parents' house.
I was so freaked out by it. And then I saw Leah Turner's post and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And then I started doing it. And then on day 5, I announced to everyone I was going to do 30 days consecutively. And I felt like after I'd announced it, well, there's no take backs, right? So I was
Right.
like, I'm going to do 30 days. And then after 30 days, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to carry on 31, 32. And now we're on like day 68. And it's become a bit of a habit. I mean, I think at first motivation was like, I'm just gonna have fun with it, and
Yes.
maybe videos go viral or whatever. And now my focus is more about, okay, what can I learn? And then summarize it in my own mind and then try and explain it. So I think it is also a learning exercise. And I think it's fun. I just genuinely like doing it.
Yeah, I'm amazed at your dedication. And you're right. It really forces you when you're making a short video, how do you synthesize that thought, right? In this short, whatever, 1 to 2 minute long video. Did you ever felt like you're running out of day of things or topics or days of videos to do?
So I listen to quite a lot of podcasts and read books, or sometimes I speak to people, and as soon as something comes in mind, it could be like a few words or a few bullet points, I write it in my phone. So I've got like 200 notes. And if I feel like I'm running out of inspiration, I'll look at the things that I've print screened. So it might be like someone's random post or a news article or something. And then I'll usually ask myself, how does that relate to my life? Or do I have an experience that applies to that? I
Mhm.
think what I try not to do, and it is quite challenging, is that there's so many quotes on the internet, and also so many people on LinkedIn are distributing quotes, sayings. I want to make sure I put my own spin on that, or at least by making a video, I can add some originality to it. I don't want to just take a famous quote,
Yes, I
say
agree.
it. Because then I feel like I'm speaking into an echo chamber that everyone already agrees with a quote, and then you get all these likes, but everyone agrees with it anyway. It doesn't necessarily generate.
It doesn't mean a lot. And yeah, when I started out, I would do some of those quote posts and they tank so poorly. And kind of like what you were saying, I realized if you don't have your own take on it or your own story or some type of connection, it's just kind of, yeah, meaningless. And people might like it just because they like that quote,
Yeah.
whether a Muhammad Ali quote or Dalai Lama quote, but it's more like they don't really get to know you, right? Through that. You're just regurgitating a quote, like maybe in a pretty graphic. So I like that because, yeah, and it's one thing to these quotes, sometimes they get, I think, very not misunderstood, or you might have your own little nuance or take on it, which is what I love. What are the videos, do you mind sharing, that did the very best? Because I'm curious which ones went really viral, what messages really resonated with people.
Yeah, virality is a funny thing. So my most viral video is also the video where some people didn't like the video for the reason because of the hook. So
Okay,
I started the hook with it's something like our three deadly mistakes to avoid in
I
2024.
saw that. Yeah,
A couple of people are like, "Oh, do you know what deadly means?" Obviously, I'm just adding tone to how I write
yeah,
it.
yeah, I know.
It might not have come, it might not have been their attention, and it made me felt so bad because, of course, when it I think that's the thing with LinkedIn. So you're trying to capture attention. So
Yes,
the word deadly is obviously provocative. But okay, let's be honest. If you're not communicating in the workplace, you're probably not going to die. Is an exaggeration. So I think that quote did well. Well, that video did well, probably because of the hook. But then now I think about it in hindsight, it's like you can't please everyone. And
absolutely.
even if I was saying something very neutral, you'll have people saying, oh, so boring. So yeah, I don't think
People
it's
will disagree. Yeah. Yeah. My most viral video is the one I talked about how connecting is not networking. And it was funny because, yeah, people message me to tell me how much they disagree with me. Or they're like, that's not true. And what do you mean? And it's so funny. I thought it was like this very simple thought I was expressing, but it's funny how people they want to argue or disagree. And I wasn't doing it to be controversial, kind of like yours. You weren't trying to say something
yeah.
crazy. It's just kind of like, oh, this is a very dire things you need, or, pay attention. But it's funny how people can maybe, misinterpret it. It's funny.
Yeah, another the other topics that I found have kind of resonated or generated engagement is I had a video saying, what was it? You are not your job title.
I love that.
Focus on your personal values because in 20 years you might not be the CEO, but if you're kind now, you're going to be kind in the future. I guess that's the message I was trying to get across. And I think some of the future of work ones as well and about upskilling. I think sometimes I don't know whether it's a bit of an echo chamber on LinkedIn in terms of, everyone is talking about future of work, people are talking about remote work, freedom of time, and it's sort of like, I mean, it's something that I think about every day. Am I adding anything of value or am I repeating something and saying it a bit differently. But I think about something my cousin said. For example, there are lots of physics teachers, but everyone teaches in a different way. Different teachers
Yes.
appeal to different people. So maybe in that sense, it's okay if you're teaching a similar thing, but you might have your own way of doing it, and that's still valuable.
I think so too. Even when I would go talk to the classrooms about engineering to the young kids, and this was in when I used to live in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, which is like full of engineers, right? So you would think like these kids, like all their parents are engineers, they know engineers, all their neighbors, and there are people still would say like, I never knew a female could be an engineer because I never seen one. So it's just funny because I don't think I'm that unique sometimes, but just even them seeing someone that looks more similar to them or a girl or even, that area had so many Asians and it was an Asian woman, Asian girl telling me like, I didn't know a woman could be an engineer. It's like, oh, you would think like, oh, it's full of Silicon Valley, Asian engineers, but you never know, right? And they just have to
Yeah.
it resonated with them, right? So it's yeah, I think everyone has something unique to say, and it's sometimes the vessel who's saying it, if you can relate to people and if people like you. But what do you say to people that are like, because you had a really great system and you were telling me about it when we met one time online about how to create videos, how to get yourself out there. Like, you talked about you gave yourself this challenge. So I talk to so many people and they're so scared to do anything online. They're so scared to get out on video. So what do you say to those types of people?
No one cares about you. So,
That's
okay,
the best thing.
think about the last time you scrolled your LinkedIn feed, you saw something you didn't like or something you didn't care about. Do you even remember the name of the person or the content? Probably not. You'll just scroll on by. And that's exactly what people do with your content at start. In fact, that's a blessing if when you first start out, if only 10 people see your video, that's great. You get to try it on a small audience with less pressure. But honestly, most people don't remember your name. They might remember your face if you have a good profile picture. But yeah, like honestly, no one is thinking about you. Everyone's too busy thinking about their own problems. I know that I spend a lot of time thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about, oh, that was a terrible video. I'm gonna leave them a hate comment. I mean, there are people who do that, but the majority of people aren't like that. So I think give yourself grace, have a go, and if you don't like it, then you haven't
I
really
love
lost.
that. I feel like this is a British answer.
Really?
Just say nobody cares, nobody knows you.
Yeah.
But it's really true, and you're right because it's I think when we're so worried internally about ourselves, we're not thinking about what little bit of goodness or message or nugget of wisdom, and other people can maybe benefit from it instead of me worrying about whatever my wrinkles or something or my face is too shiny. Like like get over all this stuff, right?
Yeah, no one's thinking about that, right? Like sometimes I think my face is too shiny. I'm definitely like my hair's like sticking to my face right now, but I'm like, you know what? No one cares.
Yeah. And I also think it makes you so much more less two-dimensional because I feel like on LinkedIn, if you're only doing the pictures and the text posts, you just feel very flat, right? But then when you watch even just a short video of someone, you're like, oh, this is how they really smile. This is what their face looks like. You can kind of see how animated they are when they're talking. That's the other thing I like about video. I don't know if it's going to last on LinkedIn, but it's nice. And I do like the short form content also, having to only do about a minute or two.
Yeah, it breeds familiarity as well. You know, when you see people, you see their personality, and it's like when I first saw your LinkedIn, Sandra, I was like, I remember we had our first call, and I was like, you are so humorous and witty, and I didn't know that. And then when you started doing videos, I was like, oh yeah, like,
You
uh,
too, and that's what's so amazing about it. You really get to know someone's personality so much better, and that's why I'm always telling people, even if it's bad, do these videos and get yourself out there, and people can connect more with the human behind like a LinkedIn page and all that.
exactly. And even if only if you connect with 10 people, I mean, I think people have this thought that they need to get hundreds of likes. But if you get 10 people in a room, like how often do you talk to all 10 people all at once? Not very often.
Right.
So I think really see, the numbers. It's like think of individual people and bodies rather
Yeah.
than like a tally.
Yes, I agree. And I was thinking about this the other day. All these online platforms and video, it's really great for introverts, right? If you think about it, 'cause you don't have to go and walk into a room and be the life of the party or the most extroverted person. You can kind of, if you're good at being online, right? You can kind of play a little bit like, oh, I'm a little bit extroverted, but maybe you're really not. You're just sitting at your house doing all this stuff. But it's kind of interesting. I always thought it's about being extroverted, but I really feel like introverts, we can really win with the videos and being online and all that and building an audience.
And you can also, I mean, I get drained after conversations. Like I grew up as an only child as well, so I kind of like being by myself.
Oh.
I think video isn't like you don't have to be on all the time. You can put yourself on video and you don't have to, it's not the same as, when people do like Calendly calls. That's one of the reasons why I haven't done that because I know that it's exhausting and draining for myself to have lots of calls every day. So I think it is an opportunity for people to showcase their personality and they can withdraw for a bit as well after.
Oh, really good point. I never thought of that. That is really great. So, what do you think is the future for you? Whatever in life, this present you're trying to build on LinkedIn. What can you share?
Yeah, so I will be making some moves soon. I think I am entrepreneurial by nature. I'm not going to say too much yet, but I miss STEM. I really miss STEM, especially when I'm working on PowerPoints and Excels. I'm like, I really miss
You
science
want to
or
use your
being
brain.
close to it. Oh yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. So we'll be making moves soon. And the reason why I'm building a presence is because I have found it has been useful already. I'm not going to reveal too much at this stage. Um, but the best thing about networking is doing it with no expectation. So even now, I'm still connected with people from 2 years ago. One of my best friends, we went to the same uni, but we first started talking at LinkedIn, on LinkedIn. So I think you can really make proper connections on here. And yeah, I want to build my personal brand. I follow Hannah Larson, who I think she's an amazing LinkedIn creator. And one of the key lessons I've learned from her is how important it is to build distribution. So I have started a email newsletter called Pocket Confidence, and it's actually inspired by I'm a text-based person. So when you hype your friends up over text.
Yes.
I thought, you know what? I want to do an email. The vision for the newsletter is every Wednesday, people get their slumps. I want to, have inject a bit of excitement in people's inbox. So I've started a newsletter called Pocket Confidence. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna get up to. But yeah, more to be revealed soon.
Yeah, I love that. That's so exciting. And I remember when we first met on LinkedIn, I thought, oh, you were already doing something entrepreneurial, and you're a bit like, no, I'm building just my network connections, having a voice to speak. And it's so genuine because there are not that many people that are doing that. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It was really good. He said, if you don't build out your network of connections, you kind of leave your whole future in like one employer or one boss's hands, like your
Mhm.
income, your career future, all your opportunities. And I thought that was an interesting way to word that. And I was thinking, oh, that's so true. Because it's just, some people, they only network when they need a job or they need something. It's like, but why not do it almost all the time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it benefits employers as well. So by virtue of employees having such a wide net, you're bound to get more leads. You're bound, at least you're more visible. People might go on my profile, they'll see where I work at, they'll go investigate. People reach out to me saying, oh, can you give me a referral? So I think it's beneficial for everyone.
Good, good. Okay, and then your newsletter, you're gonna drop it in or you'll send it to me. I'll put it in the comments, so hopefully people can join. I'm very excited about it. You just started it. And one thing I like about you is, I'll talk with plenty of people, but they don't take quick action on things, right? They'll say, yeah, 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 Sandra, I probably should do that. And I'm not saying they have to all take my advice, but that's one thing I did enjoy about you because I'm like, oh, like you kind of took it in. I'm not saying you did it just because of me, but like you're quick to take action. You weren't like, what provider and what should I talk about and what should I name it? You're quick to move on it, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, this time last week, you said, "Oh, Bonnie, we're doing a LinkedIn Live. Think about what you want to promote." And then I thought, okay, I want to do an email newsletter. So this time last week, I didn't have anything. I just went on GoDaddy, bought the domain. Kit is free. Set it up, and yeah, see what happens. I mean, if it tanks, I don't really care because at least I know how to
No, but you know what? Quick action.
now.
And if you fail, you fail. But it's just there are other people that ruminate and they would think about this and debate for years and years. And you have a successful newsletter on LinkedIn too, right? But that one's kind of different content.
Yeah, that one's called Building Online, and it's about I'll share like the different tools I use and the journey I found as well. It's just been really fun to be honest, and I've now managed to edit my videos in less than 5 minutes on CapCut. So yeah, that's gonna be my next newsletter this week.
Yeah, you gave me a CapCut tutorial because you showed me how quick and fast it was, and I was like, "Wow, it's so quick!" And don't forget, Bonnie has a day job too, and a life.
I do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining, and this was so much fun. I'm so glad that you made it on here, despite all our technical difficulties and it being, past 10 p.m. I think over there. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
I'm
accommodating.
gonna go to sleep. Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you, Sandra, for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I ended the stream. Okay, so it's just, let me hit stop.